This is a quick start tutorial about how to control the timeline area and the clips inside it. Again, it's just a quick start tutorial just to give you enough information to get going. Please have a look later for a more detailed tutorial on all the features. So here I already have a clip. So let's briefly look at the controls for the timeline area. You can move the entire time space by holding down the right mouse button, or on a pen the upper rocker button, and dragging around, and you can see you can move the entire time space. It's possible to get completely lost, in which case over here there's an overview function just to show you where you are, and you can just drag yourself back to where you need to be. The scale of the timeline can also be changed. For example, with a mouse like I'm using at the moment, the wheel on the mouse will allow you to change the scale. Alternatively, with a pen here you can drag up and down to change the scale, or click on the magnifying glass up and down, or alternatively make a selection and scale the timeline to be the size of the selection. Also, in this area of the time space we can also change the size of the clips as they're represented on the timeline. So tiny, a little bit bigger, big enough to have a small thumbnail, bigger again, or very big. Selecting clips is as easy as clicking them. As you can see, it highlights when it's selected, or you can lasso clips, or with multiple clips I'm just hitting copy and paste to duplicate that clip. Obviously I can lasso between multiple clips to select them, or holding down shift I can make multiple selections, or under the edit tab there's a select function here. I can select everything to the right, everything up or below, etc., invert and so on. To move a clip, simply drag it with a tap down. Then depending on a setting will depend whether your clip will only move vertically or will move in all directions. So at the moment I have X constraint enabled, which means that, as you can see, the clip is only going up and down. I can override that by holding Control while I drag, and then I can move it anywhere I like. If I didn't like that behavior, then under Edit, Setup, I can turn off X constraint, and now without Control pressed I have free movement. And incidentally, if I press Control, actually now I get a reversed behavior, in that my X constraint is now temporarily on. Cutting a clip is also very straightforward. You can use the monitor line to make the cut. So simply place it where you want a cut to appear with nothing selected, and press the razor button here, and you can see it's now made a cut, which of course is a soft cut in the media. You can rejoin something that's previously been cut simply by under Edit, Join. There's a second way of making a cut in a clip as well, which is this thumbnail here, an edit mark inside the clip itself. I can drag this up and down with, in this case, the right mouse button or the upper rocker button on the pen. And wherever I place this, so long as a clip is selected, then if I press razor, it'll act on that mark instead of this monitor line. The difference being whether the clip is selected or not. So again, when the clip is not selected, razor will work on this line, and when the clip is selected, it'll work on that line. I'm pressing Ctrl Z to undo those edits. The monitor razor line will actually cut through the entire timeline as well. So if I had two clips together, I can hit razor and you can see it's cut both clips. As with many areas with Mistika, there are actually multiple ways of doing anything depending on how you choose to work. So for example, I just showed how pressing razor would cut the entire timeline using the monitor line, but by mixing different methods I can make it actually cut whichever clips I want by any method I want. For example, let's say I want to cut the top clip only, but using the monitor marker. Well, in this instance I just simply select the clip I want to cut. Just make sure that under Edit, rather than the selected clips marker being the target for the cut, instead use the monitor marker. And now when I make a cut, you can see it's only cut that one by the monitor, leaving the other one alone. Let's just clear those away. We can also trim in and out points of a clip very easily. We can either do it mathematically or we can do it by hand. To do anything mathematically in Mistika, there is a calculator under the Edit tab, and in fact the calculator acts as a holder for any number that you type on the keyboard and holds it until you say what you want to do with that number. So in this case I'd like to trim the head of that clip by 50 frames. So I select the clip, I've already got my 50 in there, so now all I have to do is press Trim Head. And you can see that 50 frames has been trimmed off the head of this quite long clip. If I make my display bigger, then it'd be easier to see that. See, there's a trim happening there, or trim it back the other way. And likewise trim tail. Alternatively, I can trim clips by hand, and this will test your finger dexterity because it requires 2 mouse buttons together or 2 pen buttons together. So I start by grabbing this line using the right button or the upper rocker on the pen and drag it to the end of the clip. And when I've got to the end, still holding that button down, I join it with the left button of the mouse or tap down with the pen. So I've now got 2 buttons pressed, and now I can drag out the head or the tail. Now you'll see at some point here it's changed colour. What that's telling me is I'm dragging the media beyond its beginning. So naturally what it'll do is it'll freeze its first or last frame. Another thing you might notice about this clip is that it has a stripe down the middle, whereas the clips that we were playing with in the Import Quick Start tutorial didn't. What this is telling us is this clip has embedded audio. Now I can split the audio at any point I like with AV Break here. If I press this, then as you can see I get a dedicated audio track and a dedicated video track. This is how I can adjust sync between video and audio, for example. Or I can put them back together, AV Combine, so that now I can't accidentally slip sync. If you hold down the Alt key whilst dragging, you can get a duplicate. And with multiple clips, there are various methods of joining them and aligning them, which are generally the icons along here and the functions within the Edit tab. For example, select these 2 clips and choose Pack to the left. You can see that the right clip jumps to join the left one. Or alternatively, Control Z just to go back, select the 2 and pack right, and when I press this, the left will jump to the right position. Likewise to align clips, here there's an align to the left or align to the right. The length and position of the monitor cursor is relevant in that if I have these 2 clips on different tracks, you can see that from the monitor area down here, which of course would normally be your live monitor output to your external video monitor, you can see that I don't see anything until this physically touches or physically goes through the clip. So if I were to play this level here, nothing will happen until the monitor gets to this clip here. On the other hand, if I were to play it with the monitor cursor this long, then it will happily play both. You'll see some more relevance for that later on, but it's quite useful to be able to work with multiple versions of a shot, or for example an edit with or without titles if you're playing out, that sort of thing. So have a look for a later tutorial that goes in more detail about all of the control functions of the timeline and also all of the edit functions, but also feel free of course to play around.